Grace Johnson's hands trembled as she stared at the eviction notice. 72 hours to get out. Behind her, the kitchen table was a cruel mosaic of failure, covered in medical bills for her daughter's cancer treatment. For 2 long years, she had worked 3 jobs without a break. Mornings as a maid at the Sterling mansion, afternoons at the diner, and nights cleaning office buildings. But it was never enough. Her daughter, Maya, only 8 years old, was fighting for her life in a hospital room, battling acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Their last hope was an experimental treatment that cost a staggering $340,000. But the insurance company had denied it. Their reason? Not medically necessary. As if they could put a price on our baby's life. As always, Grace arrived at the Sterling estate before dawn. The massive mansion sat on 10 acres of perfectly manicured lawns. She'd been cleaning these same floors for 5 years, completely invisible to the man who owned it all, Marcus Sterling. A tech billionaire, a venture capitalist. A man Forbes magazine had once called ruthless. She had only seen him a couple of times, always barking orders into his phone, never even glancing in her direction. But today was different. She found him in his study at 5 in the morning, surrounded by prescription bottles and empty whiskey glasses. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow and lost. He looked up, startled, as if he was seeing her for the very first time. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice rough. "Grace, sir, your housekeeper." He let out a bitter laugh. Right, the invisible woman. She should have turned and left, started her work like she always did. But something in his face, a deep desperation that mirrored her own, made her stay. "Are you okay, Mr. Sterling?" He stared at her for a long, silent moment. "My wife died 6 months ago," he finally said, his voice cracking. "Cancer. I spent $50 million trying to save her, and she still died right here in my arms." He looked away. "So no, I'm not okay. But you don't care." "Nobody does." A lump formed in Grace's throat. "I do care," she said softly. "I'm so sorry for your loss." "Sorry doesn't bring her back," he shot back. "Just clean and leave me alone." Grace moved through the silent mansion, her mind racing. She understood his pain far more than he could ever imagine. At 2 in the afternoon, her phone rang. It was the hospital. Maya had been rushed to the ICU with septic shock. The doctors gave her 48 hours to live without the new treatment. Grace collapsed right there in the hallway of the Sterling mansion, her body shaking with sobs. She had held it all together for 2 years, been strong for everyone, but she couldn't anymore. Her baby was dying, and there was nothing she could do to save her. She didn't hear Marcus approach until he was standing over her. "What's wrong?" His voice was different this time, softer, gentler. Through a flood of tears, she told him everything. The cancer, the denied treatment, the eviction notice, the impossible mountain of debt. She hadn't meant to unload her life's tragedy on him, but the dam had finally broken. Marcus listened in complete silence. When she was finished, her voice a hoarse whisper, he simply said, "Come with me." He led her to his study and picked up the phone. "Dr. Richardson? Marcus Sterling. I need you to admit a patient immediately. Maya Johnson, 8 years old. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. I want her in the best room, with the experimental treatment, and your absolute best team. Money is no object." "Yes. Within the hour ... and doctor?" "She better survive." Grace stared at him, unable to breathe, her heart pounding in her chest. "Mr. Sterling, I can't possibly..." "Yes, you can," he interrupted gently. "And you will." He scribbled something on a check and handed it to her. She looked down. It was made out to her for $500,000. "For the treatment and to get back on your feet," he said. "Consider it a loan. Pay me back when you can or don't. I don't care." "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this?" His eyes filled with tears. "Because I couldn't save my wife, but maybe I can save your daughter." He paused, his voice thick with emotion. "And because today you looked at me and saw a person, not just a wallet. You made me feel a little less alone." He waved her off before she could thank him. "Go to your daughter. That's all that matters now." Grace rushed to the hospital. Maya was already being moved to the VIP wing. The doctors started the treatment immediately. Within hours, Maya's fever began to drop. For the first time in 2 long years, Grace prayed with hope instead of desperation. That night, Marcus sat alone in his vast empty mansion, staring at a photo of his late wife, Sarah. Helping Grace had cracked open something inside him, A part of his heart he thought he'd locked away forever. His phone suddenly rang, a private number flashing on the screen. He answered. "Mr. Sterling? This is Detective Morris. I'm calling about your wife's death. We've reopened the investigation. The toxicology report. There were some inconsistencies we missed. We now have reason to believe that your wife, Sarah, was murdered."